And now it's time for the Caps 13 pregame show with your host, Tyler Dara.
Here we are live on the Caps 13 pregame show. I am your host, Tyler Dara. With me today, we have Cameron Molina, a guest analyst for us. And Cameron, how are you doing today?
Great, Tyler. Just happy to be in the White Sit studio. Happy to be here with you and looking forward to a lot of Pittsburg State talk.
Oh, me too. I am excited to do this. We've talked about this quite a bit. This is actually the first time we're going to be able to do it. And we're going to talk some Pitt State football as they take on Emporia State this week. But before we do that, let's talk about last week's game. You were able to call that game from the press box. You had a better angle than anybody else did, really. So just before we go into any highlights or anything like that, what were your thoughts on that game?
Pitt State first half very flat. It was a difficult road. It was a difficult game to watch. Homecoming, obviously. So a lot of fans were there. Somewhat disappointed. A lot of fans left early on in the contest, which is kind of sad to see, but understandable. Pitt State rallies back in the second half, and with highlights, we'll take even more at a look at that.
And we're going to go ahead and go into that, and we're going to start out in the first quarter. Both the Gorillas and the Griffins enter Kearney Stadium with a 3-1 record. Missouri Western would eagerly aim for 4-1 as sophomore quarterback Skylar Windmiller would find Trey Lewis for the game's first touchdown. But Western would not stop there. After a Gorilla 3-and-out, Windmiller would lob an 84-yard strike to D. Tolliver for his second passing touchdown of the first half. Down 14-0. Freshman quarterback John Roderick Jr. finds Austin Panko to narrow the margin to just 7. Now in the second quarter, Missouri Western would score 13 unanswered points heading into the locker room, leading 27-7 at the half. Picking up now in the third quarter, now down 20 with the homecoming crowd in full swing, Pittsburg State needed a rallying cry. Senior running back Jeff Siebold would begin the comeback with a 1-yard rushing touchdown. Next Gorilla drive, Roderick finds Copeland on a beauty of a pass as Pitt State trailed by 6 at that point through 3 quarters. Now in the fourth quarter, down 3 after a Chad Levin field goal, Jamal Tyler sniffs out the end zone to give the Gorillas their 4th win of the season in that come-from-behind victory, 31-24. John Roderick led the Gorillas in the passing game. He had 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, just 1 interception on an even 50% completion rating, and he was only sacked just 1 time. But the Gorillas really shined on the ground with over 250 total yards, 100 of those coming from Jeff Siebold, also adding 1 touchdown on 13 touches. Jamal Tyler also added 88 yards and a touchdown on 5 carries, an average of 17.6 yards per carry. But for Western Missouri, Skylar Windmiller also had a great game in the air, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, just 1 pick. He was also sacked twice and had a 10 for 25 completion rating. For the Missouri Western Griffins, Spencer Raphael was the leading rusher. He had 74 yards and only 1 rushing touchdown came from the Missouri Western Griffins. That came on a 1-yard touchdown from Dalen Harper. And here's Pittsburg State head coach Tim Beck on his team's victory.
Golly, we sure didn't get started the way we wanted to. We were excited because we won the coin toss early on, and we thought, this will be great. They'll take the ball and we'll force them to have to drive into the wind, and that was unfortunate because they drove right into the wind and scored multiple times. So we didn't get off the way we started. We would like to have gotten started, but we talked at halftime just about we have to not continue to look at the scoreboard. We just got to worry about our assignments, and offense is going to be able to move the ball and score some points. Defense has got to go out and get 1 turnover at least. And special teams has got to be rock solid, and those are the 3 things we did. And I think our kids believed in each other and believed that they could go get it done.
Great words there from head coach Tim Beck on his team's come-from-behind victory. And Cameron, you were able to call that game on play-by-play on Caps 13, had the best seat in the house pretty much. At what point do you think was the turning point in that victory?
It had to be obviously in the second half when John Roderick and company came out and force-fed Western with the run game. Jeff Siebold came out and popped it inside for those 6 points. It was a great effort, a valiant effort by Jeff Siebold in the ground game. And even more so, you look at Jamal Tyler, Tyler came out and had a terrific performance. When he busted off for a 60-plus yard run, everyone went bonkers in the stands. And that is exactly what they needed during homecoming. and that's what really led them to that comeback win.
Really have to talk about defense as well. Missouri Western held scoreless in that second half, and I was talking to some of the red shirts down on the sideline. I was doing sideline reporting, and they said that they really didn't want to be in that locker room at halftime because they were going to make a lot of adjustments, and they were going to probably have a lot of screaming. So what adjustments did you see maybe that they did in order to stop that Missouri Western attack that put up quite a few points in the first half?
Especially on the defensive side. They came out and they started pressuring Skylar Windmiller more than he had ever been pressured before. They really focused in and honed in on the ground game to start. Raphael Spencer was a huge threat coming into the contest. They started backing up away. Yes, the averages for Raphael Spencer were pretty high, but once they started attacking Windmiller, he was having difficulty completing his passes. Then we saw Darnell Walker made that critical interception in the fourth quarter that led to a Jamal Tyler touchdown. It was an overall effort in the rushing department for the defense and even in the secondary that led to that second half comeback.
And we've talked about it a lot in high school football. Homecoming week, obviously a lot of distractions. Do you really think that that was maybe a factor and they had to kind of come over that hitch and ended up playing so well in the second half?
Well, it's been 3 weeks in a row now where the Gorillas have had difficulties in the first half, and they've surmounted and overcame those obstacles to come over with the victory. And when they were in Fort Hays State, when they came back from 24-17, it wasn't family day. There weren't a ton of Pitt State fans there, but they had to come back in the second half and play. I think at this point in time, it's easy to say that Pitt State is a second half team. You may not want to say that, but they're a second half team, and they do well making adjustments in that locker room and coming back and then playing well.
And thank you for the insight, Cameron. And we're going to take a short break when we come back here on the Caps 13 pregame show. We're going to talk the Pittsburg State Gorillas as they are set to take on the Emporia State Hornets this Saturday in Emporia. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of hearing the same old songs on every radio station? Or is there just not one for you? Well, it's time you do something about it. Join Guerrilla Radio and start a station of your own. With programming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight, there's always a time slot that's just right for you. And broadcasting live on Caps 13 and PittState.tv will make sure that your voice is heard. Are you looking to start a career in the radio field? Guerrilla Radio is a great place to earn experience. With highly educated staff, talented DJs, and state-of-the-art equipment, Guerrilla Radio is the perfect place to start your career. Not looking for a career and just want to do it for fun? That's fine too, because let's face it, who doesn't want to be a radio DJ? From hip-hop and rock to dubstep and sports talk, it's your show, play what you want. So what are you waiting for? Come on down and join Guerrilla Radio today.
Did you know that a wish granted gives a child and their family a chance to feel normal, stress-free, and may improve their condition?
Did you know it costs an average of $7,500 to grant one child's wish?
Did you know that in 2012, Make-A-Wish granted the wishes of 14,000 children with life-threatening illnesses?
Did you know that every 28 minutes a child is referred to Make-A-Wish? Did you know your Guerrilla athletes want to make just one of those wishes come true?
I'm Dylan Dolly, Make-A-Wish Chair for the Pittsburg State Student Athletic Advisory Committee. This year, Guerrilla student athletes have set a goal to raise $8,000 for Make-A-Wish to hold a wish-granting ceremony for a local kid right here at Pittsburg State. Visit PittStateGorillas.com and click on the Make-A-Wish logo to donate. It is a secure donation site, and every little bit will help us reach our goal. Thank you for sharing the power of a wish.
Back here on the Caps 13 pregame show, I am your host, Tyler Dare. With me, we still have Cameron Molina. And we're going to talk this game about the Pittsburg State Gorillas that are set to take on the undefeated Emporia State Hornets. But first, we'll go into some background information on the Hornets. The Hornets are tied for first in the MIAA with Northwest Missouri. They have the #1 scoring offense in the MIAA, 39 points per game, and Pittsburg State trails behind in third. They also have the #3 scoring defense, allowing 21 points per game.
And with an offense and defense like that, it's going to be difficult because you have that balanced game working against Pittsburg.
They are also the #1 passing offense behind senior quarterback Brent Wilson. 1,760 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, a 72% completion rate Wilson is a 3-year starter. He has Emporia State records for passing yards in a game with 522 and completions in a game with 40.
You just look at the stat sheet and it just speaks volumes. Having nearly a 6-to-1 interception ratio, having one of the highest completion rates in the MIAA, he's going to be a difficult matchup for the Gorillas this weekend.
And his go-to receiver, Kavosky Irvin, is 3rd in the MIAA with 408 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And this is somewhat comparable to John Roderick and his go-to receiver, Marquise Cushion. Cushion almost 500 receiving yards on the season. He's a great athlete. And when a quarterback has a security blanket and a go-to guy like either one of these players, it's tremendous, and it definitely helps.
And Pittsburg State has not lost to Emporia State since 2010. Last year, the Pittsburg State Gorillas defeated Emporia at Kearney Smith by a sizable margin. In this Saturday's game, Cameron, first thing I'll ask, what are the keys to the Pittsburg State victory this Saturday?
Well, for Pittsburg State, it has to be you cannot play from behind. This team has to get it through their head. Coach Beck has tried to instill this to them as well. You cannot come out in the first half flat and dead. Emporia State at home, 5-0, with a quarterback who will most likely be the MIAA Player of the Year. You cannot come out and play poorly in that first half. It has to be a continual effort all the way through.
And on the other side of that, what's Emporia State's keys to the victory?
For Emporia State, you have to pressure John Roderick. And not even that, even more so rather, you have to stop that ground game. Pittsburg State ranks in the top 3 in rushing in the MIAA. You have Jeff Siebel, Jamal Tyler now after his resurgence. You may have lost Michael Rose, but you can't count out John Roderick, who's top 5 in rushing.
And you did talk about John Roderick. He may have an injury. Do you have anything about that?
Not 100%, but last week against Western, he did have a stinger. We saw Thomas LePage come in for a play or two, and Roderick came out the field holding his left shoulder, it seemed, so it was difficult for him to throw throughout the rest of the game.
Brent Wilson, 1,700 plus passing yards. Is he going to be a catalyst for this Hornet team on Saturday?
Well, it's not will he. It's he has to be. He has to come out. He has to be the go-to guy. He has the receivers. He has the talent. He has the run game. The defense is behind him. He's going to have to step up, not only as the signal caller and leader for this team, but as a senior presence on the squad.
Last question for you, Cameron. The Pittsburg State Gorillas are undefeated on enemy soil. This time will be the 3rd game of the season that they do that. Do you think that's going to be a factor, or do you think this is just going to be another game for the Gorillas?
It's just going to be another game for the Gorillas. Coach Beck has taught his squad and instilled in them that they cannot be frightened by hostiles. They have to come out and they have to play and they have to perform like they would, just like at Kearney Smith Stadium. You have sizable wins against the Northeastern Riverhawks. You've also beat Fort Hays State, one of the more competitive teams in the MIAA, on the road. Emporia State, no different, but it should be a great game, Tyler.
And thank you, Cameron, for joining me here on the Caps 13 pregame show. And once again, for Cameron Molina, I am Tyler Darrow. We are going to send it out to Taylor Cole and Ian Arians on location in Emporia State.